Losing a parent is never easy to deal with. Let's talk about a book that makes it a little bit better. Hello, everyone. Welcome into another episode of I Hate Reading, an ongoing video series on my YouTube channel, part of the Dadurday Media Network, life advice podcasts, product reviews, cooking videos, and book reviews. And today, we're talking about a book called Generation Squeezed by Morgan H. Smith Jr. And the purpose of this book is to help us and our parents as our parents age and eventually pass. Like I said, not a very easy subject to talk about, but this book does a number of things to help us through the process. Let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. Now, for the I Hate Reading book review, what I typically do is look at the book in 4 different categories. I take a look at the book's overall theme. I take a look at the book's readability. How easy is it to read? Again, from someone who hates reading. I take a look at the book's relatability to us as individuals. And I take a look at the book's actionability. Can I take the information from this book and go outside and put it into practice right now? So first up, let's talk theme of the book. This book's theme is really all about how to help us work through as our parents get older, age, and eventually pass away. It helps us deal with how do we handle things, how do we manage things emotionally, spiritually, mentally, organizationally, all of those things. And something that this book kind of hits on over and over again was actually something that one of my first chefs taught me when I started cooking. And that was think it through hard one time on the front end. Get all the information and lay it all out way ahead of time. This way, when the time actually comes for you to execute on whatever it is that you're doing, you can trust that you did your diligence on the front end. And that's one of the core themes of this book. One of the things that the author Morgan H. Smith Jr. talks about in this book is that oftentimes our decisions are heavily influenced by emotions. And I'm sure we can all look back to days and times where we've made decisions that were based way too heavily in our emotions and not nearly enough in sound and objective reason. So this book talks about how to be able to stand firm in your resolve, even though your emotions are pulling you in the opposite direction. Something else that this book hits on, which anybody that has a large family or has any kind of family and has dealt with any sort of passing of loved ones, you know that there's some degree of financial conversations that need to take place. And throughout this book, the author does a very good job of kind of weaving in how and when to have those conversations and some surprises that you might not be thinking of, but that could really, really help those conversations go a lot smoother. Readability. Now, I thought the book's readability was very straightforward and matter-of-fact, which again, as someone who hates reading, is something that I appreciate. There are a number of topics that the author covers that many of us can consider boring, like talking about wills and deeds and trusts and some financial planning, but he does a very good job of hitting these points at a high level and kind of systematically showing you how to work your way through each one. Again, this is high-level stuff, not super deep and detailed. The one thing that I did appreciate with those subjects is when you're going through the loss of a parent or the loss of a loved one, that in and of itself is just a ridiculous and unbearable amount of weight to carry and can just hang over you for an extended period of time. And when you also have to deal with a bunch of problems and issues and resolutions and all this kind of stuff on behalf of that person, it can be very difficult and emotional and frustrating. So having a resource that further makes it frustrating is only going to make matters worse. So this book does a really good job of going in the other direction, saying, hey, let me make it easy for you. We know these are tough subjects. We know this is going to be a tough time. So I don't want to be the burden here. Let me help you make it easy. And I really appreciate that about the book. A great point that the author makes is that at some point in the process of this, there has to be the action stage. And too many of us can easily get caught up, myself included, in the planning before the action. You can get caught up in the work before the work. And even my YouTube channel here, I spent so much time trying to prepare for it and get ready for it and organize everything. And at some point, you just have to take the next step forward and actually get to the action stage of what you're doing. And this book does a very good job of kind of calling that out and forcing us to look in the mirror and make sure that we're actually doing the work, not just the work before the work. And the number one thing he says to actually take action on what you're doing is to have the conversations with your parents. And a really surprised thing that he said that I think is a fantastic idea is when you have these conversations to have a third party referee or kind of a moderator to facilitate the conversations. And oftentimes you can do this at your house, but if you feel more comfortable going someplace like, a library or to an attorney's office or somewhere like that, having a third party present to help officiate and keep the conversations on track can really help remove a lot of the emotion and get you to the end result quicker. Those conversations with parents can be incredibly difficult. And when you start, the author recommends to take a look at baby steps. So things like, hey, what are a few inconsequential things that we can pull off of your plate without the parents feeling like they're giving up a whole bunch of control? So maybe something simple as, hey, let me do the grocery shopping for you, or let me do the cleaning of your house for you, or something like that. But eventually those conversations about grocery shopping and cleaning and hygiene and driving yourself, those are going to be difficult conversations that have to be had. Another uncomfortable topic, but a question that we have to ask our parents is, what do they want at end of life? What do they want their end of life scenario to look like? Who do they want to be around them if they're able to? And what do they want to do as far as being buried or cremated? Again, these are conversations that we have to have. The book does a really good job of calling this out. And again, telling you, like I said at the beginning, get these conversations out of the way ahead of time. Get way out in front of this where it doesn't have to be as uncomfortable of a conversation or as emotional of a conversation. Relatability. Well, I think this is probably one of the most relatable topics. We all have parents. Now, whether or not we keep in touch with them is something different, but we all come from somewhere. And at some point, our parents are going to pass away. And that is a difficult thing to deal with. And it is also a very relatable thing to deal with. Personally, for me, about 10 years ago, at the time of recording, my father passed away from cancer. He was sick for a couple of years. And one of the things that was really difficult is he and my mother, unfortunately, did not do a great job as far as planning for retirement and planning for end of life. So things like wills and things like where does the money go and estate planning, a lot of that was not done nearly to the level that it needed to be. So when my father passed, what I ended up doing, because my mother, understandably so, was just at a loss and in a daze, is I had to put my grieving on hold and I had to help my mom through this. And God bless my wife, she was also a huge help in this process. But it really put the brakes on me being able to grieve properly for a long time because I had to help my mom do all of this stuff. And shame on me for not asking these questions and sitting down with my parents sooner to get this stuff out of the way. Something else relatable that this book kind of touches on, and I even experience in my own life, is finding the balance between wanting to help your parents and then also not being willing to sacrifice at a certain point of your own life. And, in my situation, my parents were wonderful parents to me, but they didn't do a great job planning for their future. And now my mother is older, and because of that, she's kind of paying the price for some of those lack of planning. And I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place saying, man, it's my mom. I don't want to see her in a bad spot. I don't want to see her, not live in a nice place or not have extra disposable income. But at the same time, those are choices that they made over decades. And here I am, me and my wife, and we're saying, hey, we're working hard for our money, and we want to put our money to work for us and our family. At the end of the day, the ultimate relatability is, and this hit me like a ton of bricks when I read it in the book, is that when your parents die, you're next. And that is a profound statement, and that is a heavy statement. But to think about that when your parents die, you're next. I'm next. After seeing my dad pass away and after reading this in the book, one of the things that it kind of reminded me of and forced me to think about again is my own mortality. And what do I want for my future? And I have a massive shift in my life right now as I work towards longevity and well-being and health and weight loss and all of those things. That's what all my priorities are now. But that has a profound effect on me reading this and thinking back to when my father passed and thinking back to time that I wasted and looking ahead to, hey, when our kids are older, we don't want to put them in a situation like this. We want to have everything buttoned up on the front end so that they can have a smooth transition as that happens, and so can we. Actionability. Can I take what the contents of this book says and go out and put it into practice starting today or tomorrow? And for this book, Generation Squeezed, I think the answer is absolutely yes. As I mentioned before, when planning these conversations and when going through these difficult discussions, the best time to do it is way ahead of time, when you've got plenty of time to think objectively, to take your time, and to think through what the best decisions are. Everybody can get their emotions out of the way and their personal grievances and all of that kind of stuff, and you can move past that with the help of a third-party referee or official if needed, and actually get to the best objective decisions for the parents and for the rest of the family. An extension of that, and to me, one of the most important things, is with the finances. Get the finances figured out now. And that is a major takeaway for me on this book, is get those finances figured out now. What money is going to go where? What level of care are your parents wanting to pay for as they get older? What financial sacrifices are they willing to make and not willing to make? And have an idea of what all of that is going to look like. Obviously, costs and inflation and everything changes over time, but having a baseline of what you can plan on expecting is going to be a huge thing to do. And one last little nugget that I thought was really, really neat. Now, my mother is in her 70s, but she's in good health and got, she's with it 100%, so no issues yet. But down the road, I'm going to remember this, is when you have parents that are aging and they start to lose some of their faculties, especially if they live alone, they start to, the book talks about, befriend even people on TV, or if somebody calls them on their cell phone, or God forbid anybody has a landline now, and they start to develop relationships and friendships in their mind with those people. And that can lead, unfortunately, to scammers and to people looking to take advantage of aging parents and emptying out their bank accounts. So the author talks about a great hack for this is to set up a prepaid debit card and have money loaded on and have a certain amount. So you load on, $200-300 or whatever. This way your parents can still use their card. They can spend their own money. They can make their own decisions. But at the end of the day, the most you're going to be out is a couple of $100, as opposed to having their credit or debit card linked directly to their checking or their savings or whatever, where a whole bunch of money could go sideways in a hurry. So I thought that was a really interesting point, and I'm going to keep that in mind in the future. Hopefully I don't have to use that, but that is a good resource and a good thing to think about. So as we wrap this up, instead of me giving a book 4 out of 5 stars or 2 thumbs up, I think about a better thing that might be more helpful to the audience here is to, who is this book for? And obviously this is a little bit more of a unique book than I typically read, but this book is basically for anybody that has aging parents or will be having aging parents. But I really think the sweet spot is for, 30-something, 40-something adults who have those parents that are 10 years away from maybe needing some assistance, and thinking about, can we get those conversations done now? Can we get those documents signed now? Can we get money starting to get transitioned over now? Whatever the case is, and that's what we're doing with my mom now, is we're getting all that stuff done now. So by the time she's 75, 76 and has a long stretch of life hopefully left in good condition, those decisions are already done and over with. And we can just ride it out because we know that we put the time in to think through it on the front end. So that's, I would say, those 30 to 40 something adults who have aging parents or will be having aging parents. This is really who this book is designed for. Generation Squeezed by Morgan H. Smith Jr. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching another episode of I Hate Reading, an ongoing video podcast series on my YouTube channel, part of Saturday is Dadurday Media. Every week I have a new video that focuses on life advice podcasts, book reviews, product reviews, cooking videos. Those are my areas of interest and hopefully areas of expertise. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. And we'll see you next time on the I Hate Reading podcast, part of Saturday is Dadurday Media. Have a good day.